Hey folks, thanks for watching. I'm finally getting around to do this video that is well overdue, and I've been promising that I'm getting to it. So basically on this video right here, I'm going to do how we found our Kia, how we renovated our Kia, how we financed our Kia, lessons learned, and hidden costs and stuff like that. So it's a beautiful day, end of October, almost November 1st. So I'm going to go ahead and sit outside by the Japanese garden, and hopefully the audio turns out okay. So please bear with me. It might be a little bit long because I'm trying to cover those topics. So if I miss some of your questions, please comment below or send me an email directly so I could go ahead and try to answer those questions for you. All right, so let me go ahead and grab my notes and go outside. Thanks. As you can see, it's an absolutely gorgeous day today. Again, it's almost November, and fall is here, and our Japanese garden is just absolutely stunning, even though it is not done yet. So I won't be talking about this during this video, but I am working on this Japanese garden little by little. As you can tell, once upon a time it was supposed to be a water pond, but I won't turn it into a water pond 100%. There's going to be some stones right there in the middle, and then I'm probably gonna do some shishi odoshi, those little bamboo water fountains, and then kind of have it come down from there by where that bell is at. And I'm gonna make like a L frame for the bell to kind of hang over this garden. So hopefully by spring of next year is complete. So please stay tuned for that. All right, so let me go ahead and find a spot right here by our this is another little project that I have. Right here I'm going to put some like some pavers and to make it nice and flat and just kind of enjoy under this tree. It's really nice. To tell you the truth, I kind of tried to do this real formal, but I'm not very good at that, talking into the camera a whole lot and everything. So I figured I'd just go ahead and give this another try. All right, let me go ahead and get my computer fired up here because I wrote a script for this because I wanted to be as thorough as possible, but try to make it short and to the point. If it's a little too long for you, I'm also adding some little markers so that you can go ahead and find it easily, so you can go straight to there. I'm also going to upload the script to the description below. So like I mentioned while I was inside the house, so I want to go ahead and focus on this videos on how we found, bought, and financed and renovated this house, this Akiya. For clarification, an Akiya is basically a vacant or an empty house. It's not necessarily an abandoned house. You have different terms out there on the web. It, it, it could be abandoned, but most likely it's just been vacant for a while. There's a big problem in Japan with Akiyas. They say that there are about 8.5 to 10 million Akiyas throughout Japan, and it's just becoming worse, quite frankly. So in a way, this is our way of doing our part to in a way repopulate the countryside of Japan while we're living here. Like I said, I also want to cover a couple of the hidden costs that you may not realize when you undertake an IKEA. For several reasons, you may not notice it. One is because it probably could be way overgrown, such as the situation of our house here, right here where I'm sitting by the Japanese garden. It was full of bushes and weeds that they just kind of used as a dumping ground. Here on my right is where what we call the mountain, and it had all these bushes, not azaleas, but it was overgrown with the kuzu on the entire side, and it took me several months to clear them up. The backyard the same. Inside the house, you may have the previous owner's property, which was the case in our situation here. So it can be a little overwhelming. You may not notice all these things as you're looking. So what I'm trying to do is kind of, so when you're looking for your place, you can hopefully remember this and go ahead and look for those items as well. And again, this video is simply my experience. There are many other experiences out there. There are many other YouTubers on the web and even TV programs where you may find this information. So again, this is just my particular experience. So hopefully it helps you in your quest to finding and renovating an IKEA. And also for your information, in the description, I have multiple websites that I have found rather useful. Some of them are in English, some of them are in Japanese. If the website is in Japanese, I recommend you use Chrome, for example, as a web browser. You see it will translate it for you from Japanese to English. does a pretty good job. Some words here and there are a little bit funny, but you will understand what it really means. So that's how you can start looking if you're in the United States or anywhere in the world for that matter. So again, for folks that have been subscribing and watching from across the world, I get many comments. Hello from Scotland, from Austria, from the United States, from Mexico, from Europe, Germany, all kinds of cool places. So I'm really humbled, and again, thank you very much. So let me go ahead and throw in the plug in. If you like what you see, please hit subscribe and like and share so that we can pass on this information to other people and hopefully make it reality for other people that want to live in the countryside of Japan. Okay, so let me go ahead and give you a little bit of background. So we bought this house in August of 2022, and it was vacant for about maybe 5 years. It necessarily was not abandoned. The son had moved away to the city. The parents passed away some while back. It's at relatively empty. It was still kind of taken care of. Once in a while they'll come in and clean around the area and whatnot, but it was definitely in a state of disrepair for quite a while. It was listed for 6 million yen, but because it had all the property, the real estate agent right away, without us even trying to negotiate, he offered it for 5 million yen. At that time, again, this was August of 2022, the yen rate was probably around 135 yen a dollar, which right now for reference is 150 or so a dollar. So back then, 5 million was on around $36,000. So if you were to buy one now, for example, it would be even much less. I'll go ahead and write below what it would actually cost. And nowadays, as of say November of 2023, if you're interested in how much that would cost. Okay, so the property consists of this house, which is about 1,600 square feet, built in 1975. There was a two-car garage that a little bit down the hill right here. It did not have power, did not have any garage doors, but very well built, structurally sound, and a really good building. And then right across from the main house, there's another little guest house which we call La Casita, and so we turned that into a more proper guest house, and this was part of this renovation. And you will see some pictures and video of it as well. And here, right next to me as well, there's also the little, what I call the man cave, because I'm going to turn it into my little man cave. But it has power and windows, but it needs some work. So that's going to be another project. So please stay tuned for that as well. And then the property, the land itself, is about 3/4 of an acre. It's a little bit hilly. It's not flat ground. So if you have been watching some of my other videos, you have seen that I'm over there weed whacking away, and mainly because it's still a little bit hilly and lots of rocks and everything I need to clean up before I can start using a self-propelled lawnmower or riding lawnmower, which I plan on getting in the future. Okay, so when we bought the house, it was in good shape. It was livable with some minor changes. Other than taking out all the property, which it took us about 3 weeks of taking out the property, taking it to different recycle centers, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. Once we cleared it out, it was definitely livable. The kitchen definitely needed to be thoroughly cleaned and replaced the little stove unit. But the water, the sink was fine. The toilet worked fine. The shower had a leak, and the water heater for the house was not working. So if we would have just done those few things, like I said, replaced the stove and the water heater and the shower, and maybe even add some air conditioner heater units to make the house more comfortable, it was definitely fine for 35,000 or less. Because again, if you look at the Akiyas, some of them are being advertised as free. That may be the case, but again, you get what you pay for. But there are definitely some very nice ones for even much less. Let's say worst case scenario, 50,000 or less US dollars. You could definitely get into a really nice livable house with very little taxes. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But since we're trying to turn this into, let's say, our dream home, our retirement home, or something for long term, we before we even moved in, we decided let's go ahead and just do a thorough renovation. make it very comfortable with some very modern features, and I'll cover those as well. But we also wanted to keep the Japanese charm. I absolutely love like the shoji doors, the ranma, those kind of features at the tatami room. This house did not have none of the beams and the woodwork exposed. It was the typical 1970s ugly paneling, the false ceilings and whatnot. But I had a suspicion that underneath all that, there was a hidden gem. And sure enough, and you'll see from these videos, and if you have been watching before, it is absolutely gorgeous. And when we met with our carpenter, I expressed this to him. I want to keep the Japanese, the tatami room, the rama, the shoji doors, but I also told him I want to see all these beams. Even in some of the beams, there is some writing in kanji when they're doing the construction, that because that is normally hidden. But I told him I want to see all that. I want to see as much as the framework as possible, and it just turned the house into a gorgeous house that to me is just a home, not just a house. And I think a combination of maintaining the Japanese features and exposing the beams was kind of a little bit of a Western style with the modern features, and also by adding the wood stove and adding the double vanity sink in the bathroom, which is not very common here in Japan. Adding an extension to the house to make a laundry room, which again is not common here in Japan. We also added an extension to the house with a nice pantry, which does not seem to be very common here in Japan. So some of those things really turned this place into a really comfortable and enjoyable place. Okay, so let me go ahead and cover some of the common questions up front. So as a foreigner, you can absolutely buy property in Japan. You do not have to have a permanent residency. You can just be on a tourist visa and buy a property here in Japan. However, owning property does not expedite the process of you becoming a permanent resident here in Japan. So you have to keep that in mind when you are trying to find a place to live in Japan. Additionally, it is very, very difficult to secure financing if you need some sort of a loan, a mortgage, a renovation loan, or whatever from a Japanese bank, unless you actually live here, work here in the Japanese economy. Most likely you will not be able to get a loan from a Japanese bank. So kind of be prepared for that. Okay, what is an Akiya?
The dictionary translation of Akiya is a vacant house or unaccompanied house in Japan.
If you do some searches on the internet or YouTube, I recommend that you type in Akiya, but sometimes Akiya, you get these other stuff. But Akiya in Japan, a vacant house in Japan, abandoned house in Japan, those are the terms that will get you to the information that you're looking for. And Akiya can be found anywhere in Japan. They can be found in Tokyo, but they are more common in the countryside. And kind of like I touched on it before, the countryside, the population is diminishing by the day. And unfortunately, I mean, there are not many opportunities in the countryside for younger people. So if you look around, when you're driving around, most of the folks are older folks. The government of Japan is trying to encourage younger families to move to the countryside. There are programs, but mainly for younger couples that have children begin, because they're trying to populate the countryside, and they provide subsidies and stuff like that. Next, let me go ahead and talk about how I found my Akiya. Bottom line, I found it online using Chrome as a translator.
Okay, let me go ahead and give you an example of what I'm talking about. So if you go ahead and head on over to our channel at Coco Lencho Japan, choose any of the videos, and in the description of each of the videos, you have to choose more. You will see different links that I have provided of useful information of how to find different Akiyas and information about Akiyas and rural living and stuff like that. I kind of like this particular website right here. And as you can see right here, it quickly translates it from Japanese to English. And then you could go ahead and search for vacant homes. You can go ahead and search by region. And as you can see right here, this is kind of an outline of the different islands of Japan. So up here you have Hokkaido, the Kanto area, Tokai area, Shikoku, Kyushu, and so on. This right here is an example of the funny translation that I was talking about. So here's translating it to China. Obviously, we're not in China, but basically that's Chigoku, and it's kind of capturing the Chinese character. That's why it's doing that. Right here is the prefecture where I live in Yamaguchi Prefecture, and you can go ahead and select the property type and for sale. And then also you can go ahead and narrow down to city. I'll go ahead and choose Hagi because it gives you me the most options right here. And then also, which is kind of cool, it gives you a different theme. Let's go ahead and choose, let's see, Sea View. Go ahead and click there. And it gives you a little bit more information about the town that you're looking at. Then you keep scrolling down. And here you go. 500,000 yen. You also have to be careful because sometimes they mix up rental, but no, this is actually for sale. 6 million, 5 million, 900,000, and so on. And then you can go ahead and click in there and get more and more information. So, again, folks, hopefully this helps.
It was listed on a small local website. It was not one of the bigger ones that you may find that's also in the description below. And then once I saw the pictures and I knew it was a Miwa because I always liked this town, we contacted the real estate agent. We came and looked at it, and after a couple visits, quite frankly, because we was talking about being overwhelmed. At first, I hate to say it, I was not impressed because of the overwhelming amount of work that had to be done. But then once I kind of sat back and thought about it and looked at it one more time with a clearer mind, we decided to buy it. That's how I found it. But before that, we drove around the different areas, and that is when I discovered that I really like this area. Not just because of its beauty, because it's also 30 to 45 minutes to the main city of Iwakuni, which is where I work at. And there's a military installation there. Me being former military, in the long term, that is very beneficial for me to be near a military installation. So driving around, looking on the internet, and also by word of mouth, especially out in the countryside, it's very easy to put the word out. I recommend, and this is what we did, basically just find a little cafe, a restaurant, whatever, and strike up a conversation with whoever's there. Usually it's the owner that's there, and usually they're going to be very interested. Why is this foreigner in my shop? They're very polite, and they will love to talk to you, exchange information. Here in Japan, they love to use Line. If you don't know what Line is, it's kind of like WhatsApp or something like that. So if you're coming to Japan just to kind of start looking, download the app and have it ready, and you can exchange your contact information with the QR code. So kind of be prepared for that. Put it out, put it out, put it out, and eventually you'll be surprised. But also go to the city hall if they have a city hall in town. And in the city hall is where they handle most likely the Akiya Bank, which I was just talking about. And for clarification, Akiya Bank is not a bank. It's basically, I guess, if you translate it to like a bank of information, like a database. There's also some of the large websites. They also have Akiya listings, but the problem is because they don't cost very much, the financial incentive to push these houses is not very high. If you have watched other videos from other folks, there are some horror stories about how they bought it, and there's all kinds of different stories out there. And the reason why is because it could be that there's no rightful owner, or there are multiple owners to these houses. Again, there's all kinds of different situations. In our case, it was very simple, easy, because there was only one owner. It was through a real estate agent. That real estate agent up front had all this stuff already cleared up. If you're trying to find something relatively fast and drama free, I would probably go that route. If you're trying to save all the money you possibly can, then maybe an Akiya bank, or just by looking for abandoned houses as you're driving around, walking around, and trying to find the rightful owner, and maybe that way you can locate them, and maybe you can convince them to sell the place. You could definitely do that. So there's all kinds of ways to do it. But yeah, once we decided that we want to buy the house, we met with him a couple times, paid the fees, and set up a closing date. And probably 45 days max is what it took to gain the ownership of this property. Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and talk about how I financed my IKEA. And this is, I think, is a topic that a lot of people are interested in because, like I mentioned before, it's very hard to secure financing if you don't actually work in Japan. Bottom line, cash, which was the easiest for me. So again, it was around $36,000. By closing, we had already transferred. I have also seen other videos and watching other people that they come with the cash to the closing, and because we wanted to do this extensive renovation, as I mentioned before, at the time I didn't have enough liquid cash available. So basically, I took out a personal loan, non-secure personal loan from my bank from the United States. It was very easy for me because I've been banking with them for 30 some years and I have good credit. It was non-secure, so that is not the best interest rate whatsoever. Any of this financial topic that I'm talking about, I am not a professional. It was just my situation at the time, what I thought it was best. I did not consult with a professional, so please do not take my word for none of this. All right, so this is the way I did it though. I was still a little bit short, and because of the economy at that time, if you follow the economy and recall, 2022 or starting from 2020 or so, the economy was not doing very well in the United States. Many investments were 20-30% in the negative. So I did not feel comfortable cashing out investments that I had in order to fund my renovation. I had to make the very hard decision to borrow from myself from my retirement fund. Basically, is what we call the TSP, the Thrift Savings Plan. It's similar to a 401k as well. You can borrow money from yourself, but you have to repay it. If you don't repay it back, you will incur some fees because it's supposed to be your retirement account. And then you have to pay it back in a certain amount of time. I knew that I was able to do it in a certain amount of time, so I went ahead and did that. But I definitely do not recommend taking from your own retirement. That is pretty much how I financed it. So a combination between cash, a loan, and a personal loan for myself. And with those three things combined, I was able to do an extensive renovation. How I renovated my IKEA is the next topic. We found a carpenter through word of mouth. Again, by going to the local cafe. And the name of the company is a small family-owned company called Asahi here in the town of Miwa. And Kayak-san is the name of the carpenter that renovated this place. There are pros and cons to working with a small company like that. So I think one of the best pros is that we were able to communicate and change pretty much on demand many times, many times. We added a last minute here and there. Can you change this, change that? Usually with those big builders, they're on a timeline and they are determined to finish as soon as possible. From the stories that I have heard, he was able to do everything we asked for, even the extremely difficult, hard job of installing those huge beams by the fireplace. And there's a whole video of that, and if you have not watched it, please go back and watch it. Very impressive. All kinds of details like that, he was able to do that. During the planning process, we met multiple times, maybe for about 2 months. It enabled us to take time to review the drawings that he would provide, go back home, look at it several times. There are many times that, yeah, it's good enough. And then the next day I think of something and we scribble on the plans and stuff like that. So probably around November of 2022 is when we started tearing down some walls. But also during this process also gave us time to pick our own light fixtures, the toilets, the shower, the kitchen, and all those other things that come along with the house. But also we installed a wood burning fireplace, which we absolutely love, and I've always wanted one in the house. So we found a small company here in near town, and the name of the company is Woodstock, and I'll also provide the link below. Additionally, Kayasan also subcontract a lot of the work to electrician, plumber, the shoji door guy, the shikui, the lime plaster, the roofer, and a couple other areas that needed to be done. You know, being a foreigner here in Japan, it was worth it to me to go ahead and just hire him to do all that type of work. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about how much it costs to renovate my Akiya. As you have seen through the pictures and video thus far, it was not necessarily a extremely cheap renovation. So kind of take this as an example, what would be a little bit on the higher side, and then use this kind of as a worst case scenario or something like that if you're looking at doing something similar. Again, so just using the average of the yen of a 136 or so, a dollar. Initially, when we did our initial walkthrough with Kayaki-san, we talked about the different areas that we wanted, you know, tear down walls, open it up, insulation, obviously a new kitchen and a new shower and all that type of stuff. But we left out some very critical parts. The initial estimate came out to about $100,000 just for the house alone. That would have left the house in a very, very, very nice, almost new looking house with new electricity, new water, new plumbing, new toilets and shower and that type of stuff. But more on the basic features of the toilet and the kitchen and so on. And also it did not include other areas such as, which is very expensive, is a double pane windows. And if you see the pictures of this house, there are huge windows, the fireplace, which obviously here in Japan, they're not all that cheap. And then we also did not discuss renovating the little guest house, the laundry room, and the pantry, and some other areas like that. So bottom line, at the end of the day, the final renovation cost came out to about 230 some $1,000. Definitely quite a bit of money, I understand that. Let's say even $300,000 by the time you throw in the cost of the land and the other items that we had to purchase. $300,000 in the countryside of Japan, yeah, it's quite a bit. In my opinion, I wouldn't be able to get all of this land, an extra two-car garage, the little guest house, the other little man cave, and all this property, the trees, a beautiful Japanese garden, and just the character of the house. To me, it was worth it. However, if you are doing this for financial reasons, if you're thinking that you're going to get a cheap house or free house in rural Japan and put some money into it, in my personal opinion, you probably won't get that money back. So you need to consider what is your why? Why are you doing this? For us, it was just the quality of life, to have a more enjoyable lifestyle, be able to cook, grill outside whenever I want to, do a fire pit, walk around in my property, do exercise by doing yard work because I enjoy that. All these other things that come along with it, to me, is absolutely worth it. Okay, I'm sure many of you are interested in how much it costs to get rid of the previous owner's property, because yes, they are different. There are different levels for sure. This house was definitely well packed with personal stuff. And bottom line, it took about maybe $600 for me to do it myself with my little K truck. But there's something that you need to look out for when you are looking through your property or future property. Items such as hazmat material like oil and that type of stuff. Tires would be a little bit harder to get rid of because you most likely have to take them to like a garage shop or somewhere like that. Electronic items, especially like a washer and dryer and a refrigerator. The easier stuff was the burnables and metals. So again, so all that came out to about $600. So in my opinion, it was well worth saving 10 million yen, which at the time was probably around $8,000 for me to do it myself. And then having that truck has been absolutely 100% beneficial for just other projects around the house, such as getting wood for the fireplace or just doing yard work around here. So if you are going to live in the countryside, I definitely recommend that you get yourself a little used truck. There are other little items or fees that you may not realize. One of them is it's like a revenue stamp, and it's called Shunyu Inshi. But basically, anytime you have to do like official type of business, you need this stamp, and that costs around $67 or 10,000 yen. And then also, there is a real estate assessed value of your property, and we received ours in April, and I believe that's normally when you will get this bill. And from my understanding, it's a one-time bill when you buy a property. So if you buy a house, let's say in August, be prepared that April timeframe you will get this in the mail and you have to pay it for that one time. And in our particular case, that came out to like $1,500. And then they assess each little property as well. So if there's a lot of other little buildings in your property, you have to keep that in mind. And then there was also the real estate agent fee. So that came out to about $2,200. Another big topic that everyone's interested in, especially in some of those European countries and in the United States, are taxes. So we received our taxes in April as well. And our annual taxes for 2023 came out to about 51,000 yen, so on around 380 US dollars for the year. We have only been living here since August, so I don't have a whole lot of data, but I'm going to list here on the screen the actual amount that we have paid for electricity, water, gas, and other utilities for the past several months. So kind of keep that into consideration that we have not been here very long. But hopefully by next year, I'll be able to provide better, more accurate data as far as the actual cost of living when you are in the countryside of Japan. Any kind of purchase, you're going to have some lessons learned. So let me go ahead and try to provide some of my lessons learned. Bottom line, don't rush. Take your time because the market is on your side. The properties will sit there for years, many times. And as a matter of fact, this property right here that I'm going to show you, we looked at it about 2 years ago, and it's still sitting there for sale. And like I stated before, they're not very motivated about selling these properties. So we inquired about this once, and by talking to the real estate agent just over the phone, he asked us how many people are in our house, and we told him only two, and he immediately said that house is too big for you. So, so this just kind of gives you an idea the level of motivation that some of the real estate agents have. Additionally, if all possible, find a way to inspect the house by yourself, or even better, get the real estate agent to open it up. And then if you can bring in a carpenter or a professional house inspector, do that as well. But if you can't do that, at a bare minimum by yourself, just look for the obvious things like roof damage, inside and outside. If you see stains on the ceiling or the false ceiling, that's an indication that there's some water damage there. The good thing about a Japanese house is that they have tatami rooms. So lift up the tatamis, and then underneath there you have boards. Lift up the boards, get a good flashlight, and look under there for termite, rotten beams, or anything like that. And if it's extremely damp, also there'll be an indication that most likely you're going to have problems with rotting or termites. Maybe not now, but in the future. So those are some of the things that you can look for. The shoji doors, a lot of them are going to stick because they're old, but if you just absolutely they will not budge, that means that the house may not be square anymore. So try every single one of them, and the windows and so on. Keep in mind that they might be stuck as well because of normally they put this little wax on the bottom to make them slide easier. Look for cracks around the house, especially like horizontal cracks. And for those of you that know better, please comment below because I'm not a professional at this. We had a really nice drainage all around the house. I believe it's called the French drainage, which was a good indication because that meant that it was being drained, but also could be dangerous if they have been clogged, right? But in our case, they were not clogged. Another nice feature with our house is that there was a little solar panel here on the top of the house that was providing a ventilation system under the house, and you could hear the motor running the whole time. And those are some of the things that I'd recommend looking for. But also, for sure, if you can, get at a minimum a carpenter, someone to come in and help look for those items that you may not realize. Also, I recommend saving cash. So just be ready if you know that in the next couple of years you're going to have a big purchase like this. And also, once you find the property and you're going to do it yourself or through a carpenter, there's different ways you can find some relatively cheap items such as the kitchen and the toilet and stuff like that through Yahoo Auctions and Yahoo Auctions Japan. And again, the link will be below. I have seen the videos. I've never done it myself, but you can buy a lot of really nice, cheap, brand new items through this auction system. Also, I recommend getting a K truck, like I said, because then with that you have the flexibility to go to different stores and buy these items yourself. Again, I talked about the recyclables. Pay close attention to this because you may see a little pile, but that little pile may be an additional $1,000. So just keep in mind if there are items like that, the hazmat materials and electronics that may cost a little bit extra to get rid of these items. Another thing, you may be excited when you say, "Oh wow, look at all this land," but then you also have to think about all the maintenance that comes along with it. We looked at our house at the worst time of the year, which was in July. So the weeds were growing like crazy. You got to keep that in mind. Are you going to be able to handle it, or are you going to be able to pay someone to take care of it? Another thing that we did not do was have the septic tank inspected before or even at the very beginning. We waited till the very end, and it was pretty dumb, and it was weighing on my mind. But by that point, it was like, well, like they say in Japanese, shoganai. There's nothing you can do about it. So I was just kind of like waiting to see how it was going to turn out. So before we moved in, they came and inspected it, and thank God it was still good, but it's old, so it needs to be replaced in the next couple years. And the estimate they gave us was around $2,000 to $3,000 to replace the septic tank here in the next couple of years. So that is something that we have coming up soon. Another thing I recommend is looking for fiber. Most people nowadays, you need internet, so just kind of look outside the electrical poles. You might see some fiber runs, or contact the your local internet provider and just kind of see what's available and how much it's going to cost. All right, lastly, was it worth it? For us, absolutely 100% without a doubt, it was worth it. Our quality of life is so much better. We have a lot of wiggle room. We could finally spread out a little bit the way we want to live. My wife has a beautiful sewing room, craft room on the second floor, which was another thing that we did here in this renovation. We have a nice big bedroom, which is very comfortable for us. We incorporated some really cool features that for us were, nice, good quality of life, such as a nice fireplace and a nice kitchen with a beautiful island and easy to work with the pantry. And then, like I said, the laundry room and some of these items that you may not think about it, but once you start living in a house where it's not, all of this is not very conducive for a great way of living, after a while it gets old, right? So quite frankly, everything that we thought of and then we incorporated in the house has been really, really enjoyable living here. So for us, absolutely 100%, it was worth it. Financially, maybe not. So in conclusion, this is our story. This is how we did it. You can take it for whatever it's worth. Again, this is probably a little bit in the higher end. If you're looking at doing something like this, you can definitely find a place for maybe 20, 30, $50,000, do a couple more upgrades, and it'll be perfectly fine. So I highly recommend that if you're looking for a place in rural Japan, do it. The people are lovely. After a while, you start building relationships, and you start getting all kinds of free stuff and vegetables and so on. So it's just it's just different. They absolutely safe, 100%. All right, folks. Again, so if you like what you see, please hit like, subscribe, and share. And I'm sorry if this got a little bit long, but I've been meaning to do this for a while. So thank you for your patience. If you have any questions, please comment below. Continue following us. I want to continue sharing our daily living here in Japan, just driving through the countryside, going on different day trips, working at the house, working on the Japanese garden here, which I need to get to soon. But this experience has been very enjoyable, quite frankly, because I've been able to actually form some internet friends through subscribers and whatnot. And it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of interesting talking about it. So yeah, so hopefully you have been enjoying thus far, and please keep following us. Thanks. Bye.